Alex, welcome to Thursday the 4th of June 2020. Today we are looking at continuing our comprehension questions on Skellig, and we are going to be continuing to read the next 6 chapters 4 to 9. Now what I would suggest is once you've written your date and LI, please can you pause the video and read through the next 6 chapters before coming back to the video to go through some comprehension questions. Okay, so yesterday we talked about PEE, point, evidence, explain. So I want you to try and use some of those in these questions about Skellig. The chapters that we are looking at first of all are chapters 4 to 6. Okay, so if we look through these questions, I will signpost where I think you might have to do PEE. And then you can pause the video here and complete these questions. And then on the next slide, there will be some more questions which you then need to pause again and complete those questions. And then we will go through the answers. Okay, so number 1 is to read the last paragraph of chapter 4. What do you think Michael is going to do? You can use PEE for this question because this is your opinion, and when it's your opinion you are able to use PEE because you can use evidence to back up your answers. Number 2, what words are used to show that mum was caring for the baby? Number 3, how does the description of the baby's breathing show that she is unwell? Number 4, what do Michael's actions reveal about his attitudes towards the baby? How does this compare with what we thought in previous chapters? Why couldn't Michael sleep that night? What does Michael do to the baby? Is the use of rhetorical question effective? What did Michael's dad tell him that made him want to go to school? Okay, so you can use PEE obviously for number 1, definitely, possibly for number 7 as well if you would like to. Okay, so pause the video here. Please take your time, read through the chapters and answer the questions in full sentences. We will go through the answers once you have completed the task. Okay, so let's go through the next set of questions that you are going to do. Number 9, why did Michael want to stay at Kenny Street High? Number 10, what synonym could we use to replace dreamily? Number 11, what happened when Michael returned to school? Number 12, do you think Michael will tell anyone about what he saw? Again, an opinion question, so I would use PEE for that one, definitely. Michael didn't want to talk to Mrs. Dando, how do we know? Number 14, what effect does the repetition of I have on the reader? Number 15, how does the author engage the reader with the sentence, but I did, at the end of chapter 6? And number 16, you are going to summarize chapter 6 only. So not 4 or 5, just 6. Okay, so again, use PEE for question number 12, please. Okay, right, pause the video here. Please write again in full sentences and explain your thinking and ideas, expand your sentences out and add lots and lots of detail, please. Okay, so here are the answers. So number 1, read the last paragraph of chapter 4. What do you think Michael is going to do? So for this one, this is your own opinion, so you can use PEE for this. I'm not going to go through an answer because there's no right or wrong. You decide yourself. Number 2, what words are used to show that mum was caring for the baby? So mum was described as cooing and comforting the baby at night when she woke up. Number 3, how does the description of the baby's breathing show that she is unwell? Because the narrator or Michael describes her breathing as cracked and hissy. Number 4, what do Michael's actions reveal about his attitude towards the baby? How does this compare with what we thought in previous chapters? So previously, he called her a stupid baby. Okay, so he was not happy about her at all, was he? He felt like the baby was taking attention away from him and his parents were giving too much attention to the baby. And now he seems to have changed or shown what he's really feeling, and he actually went in the middle of the night to check on his sister and to make sure she was okay, which was very, very sweet. Number 5, why couldn't Michael sleep that night? He kept having dreams of the man in the garage coming inside the house. Remember, it was kind of like a little nightmare he was having. What does Michael do to the baby? He actually puts his hand under the cover and touches her gently. I think maybe checking that she was okay, that she was breathing okay, and actually showing quite a lot of concern as a big brother. Number 7, is the use of rhetorical question effective? So the question in what they're asking was, the rhetorical question, sorry, was what was he doing there at the end of the chapter? And I think that makes the reader really think about, actually, why was that man in the garage? Why has he been there? How long has he been there? And it makes the reader think, actually, there's much more to come. Number 8, what did Michael's dad tell him that made him want to go to school? So his dad said, all right, you can stay home if you want, but you've got to help me take this toilet out of the kitchen and clean up the floor afterwards. And he probably thought, no, I won't be doing that. And so he decided to go to school. Okay, so can you please tick and correct as necessary? And we will move on to the next page of answers. Okay, number 9. Why did Michael want to stay at Kenny Street High? Because he wanted to be with his friends. Okay, remember he named his 2 friends and he says, I want to stay with them. Number 10. What synonym could we use to replace dreamily? So he was talking about the people sitting on the bus looking out of the window dreamily. So I thought of absent-mindedly because you're just not really concentrating on anything, or distractedly because they're getting distracted by whatever's in their head. You might have other ones and that's absolutely fine. Number 11. What happened when Michael returned to school? Everything was the same, but Michael wasn't. Mrs. Dando was obviously worried about him, so came to check he was okay. It seemed that Michael was really down actually at break time, and he didn't want to play with his friends like he normally did, and he was quite anxious about moving house, the fact that his little sister wasn't well, and now having someone living in their garage kind of stressed him out a bit as well. So everything, although school carried on as normal, for him things weren't quite as normal as they were before. Number 12. Do you think Michael will tell anyone about what he saw? Again, like I said, use PEE to answer your question for this one. There's no right or wrong. I would love to see what you've written for it. Number 13. Michael didn't want to talk to Mrs. Dando. How do we know? Because he actually refuses the wine gum, and when she asks him questions, he always says fine, fine, fine. He doesn't really give much more information. Okay. 14. What effect does the repetition of I have on the reader? So it keeps the reader focused on the fact that the story is actually in the viewpoint of Michael. Okay, it's in the first person, so that's where you got that. How does the author engage the reader with the sentence, but I did, at the end of chapter 6? It keeps the reader wanting more and suggests there is much more to come in the story and in finding out more about the man who's living in the garage at Michael's house. Number 16, summarising the chapter. That one I will leave up to you. Okay, so again, tick, cross and correct. We are doing a comprehension heavy lesson, so we are going to move on now to the next chapters of our story. And we are looking at chapters 7 to 9 this time. Few less questions. There are 13 questions in total. Again, using PEE where needed. So let's go through the questions together. Michael chewed his lip when he was speaking to the man. Why does he do this? What does the man in the garage want from Michael? Summarize Michael's conversation with the man. Is the use of short responses by the man effective? What is the writer trying to show? Do you think Michael and Mina are going to be friends? What makes you think that? So number 5 is our PEE question. Where it starts with do you think, PEE is the way to go. Number 6, which phrase tells you that Michael has had a good idea? Sorry, that should be number 7, not number 8. Something took Mum's attention away from Michael. What was that? Michael describes himself as famished. What does that mean? Michael often puts a leftover takeaway in the outside bin. Why do you think that is? Not often, sorry, Michael puts the leftover. Read the paragraph starting, she put the book and the pencil in her mouth. What sort of character do you think Mina is going to be? Number 11 is our PEE question. Number 12, how can you tell that Mina doesn't like boys very much? Use evidence from the text. Another PEE question. Mina tries and succeeds in tricking Michael. What does she ask him to make him look stupid? Why does she do it? And the last one, Dad tries to explain to Michael how the new garden will look. The author then interjects and writes about Michael watching Mina. What is the author trying to show? Okay, so what I would like you to do is, although I've skipped the questions, you can go back and go back to the first slide, the slide before this, with the questions and answer those first, pause it, and then move on to this one. Okay. Right, so here are our answers. Michael chewed his lip when he was speaking to the man. Why does he do this? This suggests that he was nervous and quite scared to see what the man looked like and how he was living in the garage. Number 2, what does the man in the garage want from Michael? He wanted an aspirin. Maybe he was in some pain or he was feeling unwell. Number 3, summarize Michael's conversation with the man. This is one for you to do and to send in to me. Number 4, is the use of short responses by the man effective? What is the writer trying to show? It shows the man's irritation at Michael being there, and actually he seemed quite annoyed that Michael was actually there. Number 5, do you think that Michael and Mina are going to be friends? Again, there's no right or wrong, so PEE and show me what you can do. Number 6, which phrase tells you that Michael has had a good idea? Well, the narrator says, it was like a light went on in my head. Okay, so that is your explanation for that question. So tick and correct as needed, and then we'll move on to the next set of answers. Okay, something took Mum's attention away from Michael. What was that? That was because the baby was sick on Mum's shoulder, and then she had to go and clear up. Michael describes himself as famished. Famished means that he's starving, really hungry. Number 10, Michael puts the leftover takeaway in the outside bin. So he does that because he knows that the man in the garage has asked him for a number 27 and a number 53, which is Chinese takeaway numbers. And so he chose those two and he left them on the bin so that the man could then go and get them for himself. Read the paragraph starting, she put the book and pencil in her mouth. What sort of character do you think Mina is going to be? So this is your own PEE question, and you need to use it to develop your ideas about what type of person do you think she's going to be. And number 12 is PEE, but I've given you a bit of a clue because she keeps clicking her tongue and rolling her eyes, which means she thinks he is talking nonsense. Okay, she rolls her eyes every time he speaks. Number 13, Mina tries and succeeds in tricking Michael. What does she ask him to make him look stupid? So she tries to make him look silly by saying the birds are scared of him and that he is a danger to them. And she does this because she wants him to think, actually, I'm the smart one. And if you want to be my friend, you better listen to what I've got to say. She's the boss. Okay, so she's trying to make him see that. And the last one, Dad tries to explain to Michael how the new garden will look. The author then interjects and writes about Michael watching Mina, which is, what is the author trying to show? Basically trying to show that Michael does not care about what Dad's going on about the garden, because he doesn't think that anything's going to change anyway. And actually looking at Mina and seeing what she was doing was a bit more interesting than listening to Dad. Okay, well done. I know that was quite full on answering all those questions in comprehension, but it's really important that you understand the story before we start our longer writing. Okay, really important. So if you can, please send your work in to me, show me how well you've done, or just drop me a little note to say, Miss, I got all of them right, or I needed a bit of help with this one or this question, and then I can see how you're getting on. Okay, well done, and I look forward to speaking to you tomorrow.